Morning. Philip,
Yep.
sa PE ba?
Ah,
I-present ra to?
i-submit naman daw, yes sir. Pero ambot lang niya.
Na group di ay?
Kuan na lang, giisa na lang. Kuan na nagbuhat si Joel sa PPT sa para isa ka task, das ako din sa isa. Wala pa ko nauman sa last 3 slides. Pero masubmit na to by ugma.
Hi.
Hello.
Morning, sir.
Good morning. I'm sorry for
Good
the
morning,
delay,
sir.
guys. I was having trouble with my laptop. May nakilabay. Okay, let's start our class. Okay. Which part did we end up last time? We're done discussing about the different ano uh the difference between the different researches. Are we done discussing those? Are we done discussing this one? Research using secondary data. Correct? So, manata sa kung ano, secondary data, no? Can we confirm sa daw kuno? Kasi magud manglapas ta.
Nag-stop ka, sir, sa analysis of existing data.
Meta-analysis. Ano yung manata dani sa analysis?
Analysis of existing data, sir.
Okay, manata dani. Manata na? Confirm? Say yes? Say no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's proceed to the inquiries. Okay? Since it's part of the title sa atong 3I's, no? Since we're talking about inquiries, investigation, and immersion. Okay, let's talk about inquiries. What do you mean by inquiries? Okay. So good science education requires both learning scientific concepts and developing scientific thinking skills. Okay, that's the reason why we have what we call methods. Okay, natin itawag ng scientific methods. And then inquiry is an approach to learning that involves a process of exploring the natural or material world and that leads to asking questions, making discoveries and testing those discoveries in the search for new understanding. So when can we use the when can we say that we're doing the inquiries? Okay, so what's the purpose of the one of the word of inquiring? Diba? If you use the word inquiring, kasi pasabot na ng inquiring gani. You're asking, diba? You're trying to discover something. You're trying to find an answer, diba? If we inquired. So what is the process of inquiring? Okay, so in the inquiry, we can relate that one to science education as well. So the process of the scientific methods has something to do with the inquiries or the process of inquiring. So how do we deal with that one? First, we have to remember that we need to think of what once we create a problem, we need to do some assessment, evaluate. Like, ang problem ba nato nga create is on ba siya, mulid ba siya sa kanang mulid ba siya og kanang sakto nga answer? Okay? Or are we going to make some assumptions out of those problems that we have created? Okay? Because once we do the inquiry method, we have to make sure that we are into into a situation kung asa mas realistic siya rather than predicting, okay, rather than the theoretical nga part sa while doing the research. So we have to consider the following class. First, the inquiry process. Okay, the inquiry process is driven by one's own curiosity, wonders, interests, or passions to understand an observation or to solve a problem. Okay, so by the word itself, curiosity. Okay, you create a process out of curiosity. What you're trying to discover, what are the things that you wanted to know, okay? Or enough na ba ang imuhang nabawan sa usa ka butang? Okay, those are the questions that supposedly ma-ask nimo sa imong self. And then if you're not satisfied on those or on the result, okay, you will be quiet. You will tend to do more, okay? You tend to create and elaborate more the process. Okay? Hantod makaabot ka sa let's say sa point kung asa masatisfied ka. Okay? So now, when will the process begin? Okay? The process begins when the learner notices something that intrigues, okay, that surprise or stimulates a question. So, syempre, di ba, sa science investigation, even sa method, okay, ikaw nga nag-create sa problem, ikaw ra po na makasolve na. Ikaw nga curious kayo sa kabutang, ikaw ra po ang maka-find out sa answer na. And once we create this process, it will lead us to discover something new. Okay? And actually, because of this kind of process bitaw, uh, something that may not make sense in the relationship of what you're looking for from your previous experience will be now determine what you have in your current understanding. So those things that you are not satisfied, those things that you are curious about, once you go or undergone the process of the inquiry method, it will lead you to justify those things that you have or that you are so curious about, diba? So for example, if you're so curious about the attitude of the students, because of this inquiry method, it will lead you to the answer. Okay, this is what things is all about. Okay, this is the things that I supposed is the answer of my question. And nanay comparison, okay? Ma-compare na din nimo ang imuhang nahibaw-an sa mga bag-o pa nimo pwede mahibaw-an. And then once you sort things out, okay, pwede na nimo i-specify din dana kung unsang idea, unsang nga thought ang appropriate dito sa imuhang curiosity nga nabil. The next step is to take some action. Okay? Through continued observing, okay, raising questions, making predictions, testing hypotheses, and creating conceptual models, those are the steps that you will do for you to to find out the reality out of those questions that you have. So we have what we call surveys. Okay, we built questionnaires. Okay, we interview people or we do some experimentations. Those are the things that we always do just to make our let's say problem or our inquiry more legit, okay, more realistic. Kana bitang naa siya basis, okay, it is statistical basis or let's say mga logical analysis ng mga ng mga process, we need to justify those because you are looking for an answer. And to find an answer, you have to take some actions. Diba? For example, lugar kanang let's say kanang how can we say that the parts of this virtual kanang systems of frog is true? So we do some dissections. Okay, we dissect the real frog, and after dissecting, we have this conclusion. Okay, out of the hypothetical questions that we have while we are just watching the picture of this systems of frog, and then once we dissect the frog, those parts that we have learned from the virtually will now be justified. Okay, tinodyo day nga na yung heart ng frog. Tinodyo day nga ang frog is nahingan yung mga bones and etc. Okay, it's the same process when you do the research. We do the action research, we do the thesis. Those are the things that you have encountered already is part of the inquiry process. Okay, another things that we need to remember. The learner must find, okay, her or his own pathway through this process. It is rarely a linear progression, but rather more of a back and forth or cyclical series of events. So we have to, let's do the step-by-step process. Diba? Because through those processes, dito na mo mabawaan. Okay, you will know if there's a progress of those step-by-step process that you have. Like for example, on the chapter 1 of doing your research, so how will you know if there's a progress that tong imong gibuhat? Siyempre, you do the some consultation. And then the consultation process will tell you if the chapter 1 that you did is already right or needs more improvement. And then if okay na imong chapter 1, you will now proceed to chapter 2. Okay, the chapter 2 now will have this review of the written literature. And from those literature, compare it to the problem that you have on the chapter 1, those processes that you have on chapter 1. And then if ma-satisfy na, ikaw nga nagbuhat o ang jury nga or ang critic teacher nga nag-analyze ito imong chapter, you na proceed to chapter 3. Step-by-step process. Okay? Because you need because of those step-by-step process class, pwede mo nito ma-evaluate as well as a researcher na there are things that you need to change. Okay, there are things that you need to at least kind of fix something about those mga revisions, okay, corrections, because again, you are looking for an answer. So to look for an answer means kinahanglan ka na kanang realistic ang imuhang kanang research nga gibuhat. Okay? Now, as the process unfolds, more observations and questions will emerge. Siyempre, di ba? Because you'll be interacting to a deeper phenomena with a greater potential for further development of your understanding. Okay? The more ka maka-receive of criticism out from the context that you have made, the more ka the more ni mo masabta ng imuhang research. And then the more mag-emerge ang mga questions of questions like what? Questions like how will I end my research? What are the exact and proper ingredients, procedures that I can do to make my research more appropriate? Okay? What are the things that I need to consider? What are the factors that may affect my research? So through those questions, pwede na siya muli dito sa path kung asa you yourself, a researcher, will now know how to at least navigate those kind of questions. Okay? How will you interpret those questions into actions? Without actions, those words that you have inside your research will, putang lugar, will not be reliable as you want it to be because there's no action taken. Diba? Walay putang lugar, walay progress kung may tabo na unless you do some actions to it. Okay? If the requirement of your research is the survey, you have to do some survey. Okay? If you compare it to science experiment, you will never know the answer or the taste or the the figure of that product unless you do the experiment. It's the same thing with the research. Okay? And the more na nimo, the more ma-cultivate ang imong learning about research or about your problem, the more ka curious about what possible improvement you can do on your research. Okay? Dapat din mas greater yung process learning. Uh, Aside of doing this one, I can also do this type of process, di ba? Na yung mga doors and windows na ma-open, and that will lead you to more deeper understanding about your research. Next, the along the way. What is the along the way? The inquirer or the inquirer collects and records data, makes representation of results and explanations, and draws upon other resources such as books, videos, and other expertise or insights of others. No man is an island. Okay, remember that one, class. Okay, as a researcher, butang talaga, as a lone researcher, dili ka pwede, siguro, no, in consideration to those people who are very gifted when it comes to comprehension, analytical ng mga kwan ng mga knowledge. But if you as a researcher has no idea on how to do your research, no idea on the process, no idea on what to do, syempre, you have to follow the kwan. You have to follow the kwan bitaw, the what do you call this one? The basic process. Like for example, research on the resources that you can get, and then try to scan, try to read, okay? Try to comprehend and understand what is in the content of your resource and compare it to the problems that you have made. Okay, that's why we have the RRL on the chapter 2. Okay, because we need to understand as well and relate our topic to those who are really kind of expert na bitaw, class sa ingana ng mga field. Like I've said last time, di ba? Kanang if you are kwan, dili pwede nga buasa lang kasi mong own understanding. You have to ask someone, or you have to have these references na closely related dito sa imong research. Okay? And then after identifying those resources, nakabuild na ka to dayon og something. Like for example, no, it will lead you to a result and a better explanation on what will be the outcome of your research. Okay, what will be the product? Will it be satisfying or close to the kanang satisfying level ng gipangita nimo. Okay? So sometimes, no, not sometimes, but all the time, we need to collect data, because the data there is something that we can show to the panel or to the people who wanted to learn our research that the research that you have made is really true. Okay, and actually basis. Okay, there's a basis. And it is not just something that was taken out from the internet, copy paste. Okay, it is something that you have kind of something na imong gibuhat, okay, with all of the effort, the time, the days, okay, all of those sacrifices just to produce the product. So the data are very important when it comes to the inquiry method or even sa research. Okay? And then making meaning from the experience, of course. Diba? Since you are on the field, okay, you're on site, on doing your research, proving your research, it requires more on the reflection, conversation, comparison of findings with others, interpretation of data and observations, and also the application of the new conceptions to other contexts. All of this serve to help the learner construct and improve mental framework of the work. Okay, so again, you are on site. Say on site. It means that you are on the field. Okay, kung sa soldier pa, nakipaggubat ka. Okay, or kung laagan ka, you tend to explore more about the environment, for example, ikaw, no, curious ka sa kalugar. Unless naakala tumuadto ka dito, you will never know if the people's speculation about that place is true or not. Okay, you need to experience that one. Same thing sa research. If you wanted your research to be more, uh, kwan, more truthful and more believable to others, you have to make sure that you are on that field. Okay, you are working on it. Okay, wala na mo na siya gibasta-basta lang. Okay, you are doing something on your research to make your research more more kanabitang understandable. Okay, and also as a researcher, you have to make sure that your research can also be kanabitang pwede ba daw siya makuan class, pwede ma-share na ang knowledge from this research to the others. So, yan na ba? Kanang uh, naagapon siya, what do you call this one? Benefit. Okay? Na actually benefit sa other researchers. And to know bitaw as a researcher nga ang imong research kina ay benefit sa lain, it's a good thing because it means that ang imuhang ang imuhang gi-focus sa imong research is also something na probably no curious pod ang uban tao because they're looking for an answer nga naa sa imuhang research nga gibuhat. And again, you will always the experiences that we're talking about here will always show because of the data that you have collected all throughout the process. So those are the things that you need to consider as well. Okay? Any question about the inquiries? The inquiry method? Wala na?
Wala, sir.
Okay. So nasabta na ang process sa inquiry. Okay? So again, if we go back, so first we need to consider the inquiry process, and then after identifying the process, we need to begin identifying those things that you have been listed. Okay, things that you wanted to do just to make your research or your, let's say, curiosity, uh, kwan, to have a positive outcome. And then you take some action, tapos so na dayon ka. Okay? You have to be, as a researcher, your idea should be always specific. Do not branch things out na wala lang. Kalibitang, for example, your researchers are focusing on the attitude, but then nag-shifting ka into students' ability to adapt to something unsa pa na inya ng mga kuan ninyo. Things don't work that way. Okay? There should be a focus on your study. The idea should always be on the kwan, should always be specific. Now, let's talk about scientific investigation. Since we're talking about investigation ng po sa ato ang subject. So, we will deal with the basic scientific investigation or scientific method. How do we do the scientific investigation? Probably the first thing that you should do is to formulate a research question. So, i-highlight ato dito ang sa research question. It should be based from the what and the how. Okay. Why what and how man atong i-focus na na? Okay? Okay, Melody, why do you think, okay, Melody, can I ask Melody? Melody, why do you think in the process of scientific investigation, we need to focus our research question on the what and the how? Do you have any idea why? Hello, Melody, are you there? Melody? Absent si Melody? Kasi nakaon na lang inyong inyong Google Meet pero wala mo. Okay? Matangtang mo sa attendance. How about you, Shayman? Any idea, Shayman? Why do we need to focus on our question on the what and the how? Hello? Wala mo tubag sa inyo ha? Pangtawag na ako. Sinanta mo
Ako,
ha?
sir.
Kinsa? Princess. Evelyn.
Waan, sir. Kanang para atong mahibalaan kung unsa og unsaon pag himo sa research.
Yeah, that's my point. Okay, why do we need to focus our question on the what and the how? Okay, what do you think is the reason? How about if we focus sa why? Okay, di ba pwede why? What and how man ta once we formulate a research question.
Ay, sir. To determine the scope of investigation.
Okay, to sorry, what's to siya?
To determine the scope of investigation.
To determine the scope of investigation. Okay, probably no, because if you are so curious about something, maybe you will the first thing that will kanang comes out sa imong mind is that okay, what no, okay, di ba ka pwede yung mag-why. Okay, kung mag-why man good ka, there's a lot of kwan, di ba, dakan ki open doors na that is an open kwan na siya, that is an open-minded question. Okay, why yung why, kung maminaw ka dani nga answer sa why nimo man good, if you're doing this research, hindi ka sa masatisfied na nga why nga answer, diba? Why yes, why no? Dagan kay possible kanang follow-up questions. And then magka-daghan na siya. And once magka-daghan na siya, you will never know which of those answers will be more reliable and will be answerable dito sa imong formulated research question, di ba? And that's the what. The what will only focus on one certain thing. Okay? What makes your problem, let's say, what makes that problem of yours very questionable? Okay? And how will you answer those questions? Diba? So, that's the reason why, in formulating a research question, focus ito sa what and the how. Pero, uh, the what question there, class, is kind of shallow lang siya. Ha? No, shallow man siya, sir. It's a low-level question na magud siya. So, it's very understandable nga question ang what. On the other hand is the how, okay? Because sa how magud, mas deeper ang understanding and deeper ang question and deeper ang answers na makuha niyo sa how. Because it is an access to do some actions, okay? Basically, we are relating that how question dito sa atong gitawag nga experience, okay? Because the experience there is the reason uh, why you are doing the research. Okay? Because how will you do it? How will you prove your problem is answerable by the process that you're about to do, diba? So next will be the review and related literature. Okay? So, obviously, it's about the background ng siya, no? It's about the background of your study. So again, no man is an island, no brain. Two or more brain is better than one. Okay? Because that is na siya. And of course, you have to learn as well to be more on the dependent side. Kaya nga naman, do not be too independent, because if you're too independent, ang tendency na class is that grabe na ka confident about about the answers that you have. Okay? Tapos dili ka ma-aware din nga ang imo din ka ng understanding as you as a lone researcher is out of context sa ka. Okay? So asa na kag pakapaingon, wala na basihan ng imong research, okay? So you have to do some background study, okay? Search for more resources and references. Okay, that is how you do the RRL. Okay? Either book na siya, articles, research sa other or iba bang resources are coming from the internet. Okay. Do not use the Wikipedia and the WikiHow as part of your review related and literature. Okay? Di pwede na because ang sa Wikipedia Manggod Class, you have to look for, let's say, ato na generalize siguro, we have to look for a very legit nga website, okay? Authored by some doctors, authored by respectful nga mga representatives from the schools, university outputs, okay? Professors outputs. Those are the things that you need to search. Not coming from the Wikipedia. Kaya ang Wikipedia magod is ma-edit siya. And the WikiHow are those answers lang coming from, I don't know, if they are very reliable nga mga resources. Pero as much as I know, di ba, dili din siya reliable when it comes to WikiHow and Wikipedia because those things are pwede siya ma-edit. Next is the formulate hypothesis. Okay, formulating your hypothesis, it must be validated and accepted. So, when do we begin to create hypothetical questions? When? In what particular moment or supposedly we create hypothetical questions in which possible part during sa process ng research? Irenia. Which part, Irenia? Sorry, ikaw, Irenia, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Irenia, kung ikaw ang researcher, Irenia, and then you are doing this process in research, no? Which part do you think is the time you can formulate hypothetical questions? Ikaw, it's
Sa,
research, say, go ahead.
para sa ay ang imong question, sir, answer ito, sir. Can you please repeat?
Which part during the process on doing your research you can create hypothetical questions?
Ay para sa ako, sir, kay sa ano na sa conclusion kay naa naman gud adto tanan bitaw, sir, na nadadto ang question sa what ug nana po dadto ang tubag bit I mean nana dadto ang tanan-tanan gud, sir.
How about sa Kwanda Irinia? How about kung dito sa magpuat o hypothetical questions while we are collecting the data? Pwede ba na siya?
Pwede gyapon, sir.
Pwede gyapon. Okay. Actually, thank you so much, Irinia, sa imong answer. Actually, your answer is correct, di ba? Formulating hypothesis can be done either dito ka while collecting your data or while you're trying to do some conclusions out of those data that you have collected. Di ba natay sa to ang topic din sa last time natay kitawag nga predictive, no? Natay predictive. So we do some assumptions beforehand. So while collecting some data, makaasa ni kada sa mga kwan. Okay? Are these data that you have collected will lead you to the answers that you're looking for? Because on that process, Manggod, you have a choice. Either you stop doing the collection of data, okay, limit that data, or you can at least remove something that is not quite important na parts sa mong data. Diba? So, how do we examine those hypothetical questions? Okay, you have to make sure that the outcome of those hypothetical questions that you have made from the moment you have collected your data and the moment na maghimo kag conclusion must be validated and accepted. Sabot na enough ang imong answer, enough ang result, and it should be something kind of bitang dili siya putyo-putyo lang. Okay? On siya, no? It is a result, a product of effort and kind of deeper understanding. Okay? While doing the process. Okay? Now, next is the processing of data. The processing of data is the most important part. Why? Because it talks about the statistics, the data gathering, and the calculations. Remember that the data that you have is a result from the experience or the action that you have taken just to make your research reliable and of course understandable. The numbers do not lie unless you have processed it through kanang in a proper and a very appropriate way. Okay? Di lang siya kalibitang assumptions lang. Okay? I keep on repeating the word assumptions now because sometimes magudunggo na siya ang problem nato. Okay? Di lang siya about assumptions lang. Okay? The numbers don't lie unless the process is legit and proper. Okay? Kalibitang naa siya basis. No? Like, for example, you pili makaingon nga ang percentage sa usa ka pagkaon is mauna siya unless there's a test nga nabuhat na, di ba? Or ikaw mismo as a person, you will never know who you are unless you try to do some to do some experiments. Okay? Social experiment, so pa na siya, no? Physical experiments, emotional experiments. Those are the things that you need to consider po. It's the same thing sa research on while you are processing the data. Because the data will now lead you to a right answer. And last one is the communicating the results. It's all about acknowledgments, okay? The questions on have you found new discovery? Okay. Was it informative? Okay. And then eliciting new forms of ideas as well. Diba? Uh, uh, two or more brains is better than one. I'm telling you. Okay. That's the reason why you need people, okay, reliable resources that can actually tell you that your research is right or wrong. Okay. And then the results that you have should be something justifiable. Okay? Ma-defend mo na siya. Because, you know already, di ba, pag mag-research kita, research, at the end of the line, even sa mga investigatory projects class, okay, kung naka-experience na mo na, at the end of the line, you need to defend your product. Okay? How will you defend your product kung dili ikaw mismo ang nagbuhat or wala kay efforts nga gibuhat? How will you defend your product kung ang imong resources nga gikuha is just a copy-paste of the product from the others? No? So, di ka ka-defend na. Di ba? Wala kay ma-answer na because ang imong matubag na dana kay ambot sir, nag-research siya kung www. Actually, sir, I can provide you a link or actually, sir, dunggan ko na siya dito sa putang I'm sorry for example na ko ni siya kay sikat mo yun ni siya karon. Nakuha ko naman lang sir sa Rappler, sir. O may giingon. Okay, how will you prove? Okay, how will you defend that product of yours if the resources that you have are very incompetent? Okay, a joke, diba? It's a joke. Walay basis, walay kanang ground studies ng netabo, wala. On the ground studies ng netabo, wala nga na. So, again, those are the things that you need to consider when we compare the process of the research to the inquiry method and doing the scientific investigations. Okay, actually, class, if you do some surveys we call it experimental na po. No? So, it's the same thing lang. Okay? Okay, that's it. Any question about our topic for this day? Voluntary actions? Wala?
None so far, sir.
None so far?
Wala, sir.
Wala na. Hawa na yung utok karon, kigutom naman. Okay, so let's stop our discussion here. Okay, thank you so much for listening, class. I hope you have you jot down the most important details atong discussion from last Tuesday and Thursday. I might be giving you an activity siguro this weekend. Okay? So try to try to recall your practical English 1 and 2. I might be getting some of the ideas there. Okay? So thank you so much for listening again, and you may now leave the class. Happy lunch, everyone.
Bye, sir. Thank you.
Bye, sir.
Bye, sir.
Bye,
sir.
Thank you so much. Possible na buat ko bag-o for the 3I's siguro. For the physics 2, it's the same one. It's the same classroom. Okay? Oh, sa 3I's lang ko kay medyo daghan ta output sa 3S mo